What's up guys, James here. So this is going to be my second response to Mr. Ash Toast, responding to his video, The Problem with Atheists 2. I'm also going to try and do this video in just one take. I'm just trying to make myself more efficient with releasing the videos and just sort of increase my confidence at speaking in front of the cam as well. So before I start then, I'm just going to add a little disclaimer at the beginning. When I talk about religion or atheism in this video, I am most definitely generalising. There are many religious people who don't behave in the manner that I'm talking about, and there's certainly many atheists who would disagree with what I'm saying as well. So first off then, you say that what you take the most issue with is the ist part of it, the whole labelling side of things. In the same way that someone calling themselves a Marxist or a fascist or a Christian, for example, is going to limit their perspective. To some degree, I do agree with that. Christianity have a whole book telling people exactly what they should believe, whereas but atheism is a lack of belief. The only thing it says is that you don't believe in God, and that is it. But yeah, sure, we are just as we can be just as likely to fall for propaganda. We can be just as bigoted. We can be just as angry as absolutely anybody else. But atheism itself doesn't have much bearing on that. You say that people should come to their own conclusions, and yeah, I entirely, wholeheartedly agree with you. I have come to the conclusion that I don't believe in God simply because there is no evidence for God, and I have really looked, but I have not found anything which is remotely convincing. The other thing is that the reason we call ourselves atheists is because most of the world are theists. If there weren't any theists, there wouldn't be a word for atheist. So, to give you another example of this, there wouldn't be the word pacifist if there was no violence in the world. We don't call ourselves a-cannibalists because there's no need for such a word, because in the world we live in, most people aren't cannibals. You go on to say a lot of atheists have an axe to grind, and you compare it to a new baptism of atheism. Yeah, sure, some atheists can take it a bit too far, but that's but that would be anti-theism as opposed to atheism, which is completely different. James 1978 has actually done quite a good video on this topic, so I'll leave a link to that down in the description bar. I personally, from my own life, I don't have an axe to grind with religion. From my own personal perspective. I was brought up a Christian, but I was lucky enough to be brought up an Anglican, and from everything I've seen, I don't have a problem with Anglicans. My great-grandfather was a priest. He ran 7 churches, yet he he wasn't homophobic. He believed in evolution. I've never had him or any of my teachers or any of my family or any priests for that matter tell me that I'm going to burn in hell for all eternity. My personal experience of Christianity in England has been extremely liberal. Online, however, it is a completely different matter. There are some absolutely insane Christians out there, and the anger that many atheists feel is a reaction to that. Certainly, many of the atheists here on YouTube do have a serious axe to grind with religion, and in my opinion, rightly so with a lot of them. A lot of them were brought up as fundamentalist Christians. They were, ostracised for being homosexuals, or told they're going to burn for all eternity, or put in an education system which severely limited their their world perspective, but with a lot of unproven claims. Sure, a lot of them do take it too far, but there are some very legitimate criticisms of religion, such as homophobia, sexism, racism, religious wars, and people who are fired because they simply don't believe in God. And there's also just defending our own positions, and I do try to do this in a calm and reasonable manner most of the time. Religion has, for far too long, held some sort of protection from criticism, which I think is completely invalid, when we're completely free to criticise someone because of their political views, for example. Now, as for Richard Dawkins, which you talk about briefly when he attacks religion, I do agree with the vast majority of what he says, but there are things I do disagree with him on. For example, I do disagree with him when he says that moderates cover for the extremists. Abby Normal 1, Bossman 103, and Rational Roundtable, for example, are all Christians who do speak out against the extremists, and would probably find themselves agreeing with atheists a lot more than they're agreeing with a lot of Christians. So you say if you had to choose, you would choose atheist, but you think that it is closing yourself off. And you say, I don't know, maybe there is a God, there's no evidence to disprove it. Well, technically that would still make you an agnostic atheist, like me, and you cannot disprove a negative. For example, I can't prove that there isn't a tiny invisible purple dragon hiding somewhere in my house. I have no problem with looking for the evidence of God, and I have spent a vast amount of my time examining people's claims for his existence. The vast majority of atheists would probably agree that it is a good idea to question their beliefs or lack thereof. If the proof was presented to me, I would of course believe in God, but whether or not I would praise him would be a completely different matter. So next up you say, the kind of God I'm talking about is not a deity, a force that is beyond the rational mind. Einstein talked about a kind of cosmic force which he believed was intuition, behind all the natural laws, disregarding such possibilities you think is negative. Well, I think this is more of a problem with religion, disregarding other possibilities. They claim to know with absolute certainty the nature of a god and prescribe human properties to him. If such a being did exist, I certainly think that our lives would be far too insignificant for him to take any concern about whatsoever. I can't really argue against a deistic God, one who doesn't take an interest in us. One may well exist, but I don't think such a being would demand obedience or praise, and it wouldn't influence our lives in any manner, so such a belief I don't think would make much difference. If there is something that is beyond rationality, then what is the point in trying to rationalise it, or believe in it? Furthermore, assuming that God did it historically has hindered progress and closed minds. People simply assumed that God caused the diversity of life, diseases, earthquakes, floods, rainbows, lightning, and many other natural phenomena, which we now have perfectly valid explanations for. I don't know where the natural laws came from, or even if the question of where they came from is even valid, but I don't see any reason to assume they came from any form of intelligence. There certainly are many aspects of the natural world we don't understand, but we don't claim to understand them, and I don't think that atheists are closing their minds to such possibilities. Now, Einstein, as far as I know, was a pantheist, and by that I mean that he looked at the natural world as a metaphor for God. It's not actually a belief in and of itself. For example, you can refer to the sun as God, or refer to the sun as our father or something like that, because it is the cause of all life on Earth. Or you could refer to evolution as a creative force, even though it is caused by completely natural laws and has no intelligence guiding it. And when Einstein famously quoted, "God doesn't play with dice," many people simply believe that he was saying the universe isn't random. And another thing in pantheism, you could describe life as the universe's way of looking at itself. I don't believe there's any purpose for this to be the case, but you could legitimately argue that is true. However, that's just changing the definition of God to suit that purpose. That doesn't prove that a God exists. Anyway, that's about all I've got to say at the moment. I'll leave a few links down below to some videos I think you'll enjoy on the subject as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.